Hey guys, Matt Allen, Tim Little, welcome back to Tactical Bassin. This is video number 2 in the Buyer's Guide series, and today we are talking swim baits. Now, the swim bait category is so large that we're actually going to break it in two. So today we're talking hard baits. Now, we understand that Black Friday is coming, and that is going to impact a lot of you. That's why we did swim baits now, because it can save you guys a lot of money. Well, we also understand that it comes and goes really quickly. So this is Wednesday. Tomorrow, Thursday, we are going to throw in a bonus video for you. We're going to do soft swim baits.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. So you are going to get both before Black Friday lands. And then we'll just keep right on rolling from there. But right now, we are talking hard swim baits. You want me to kick it off? Here we go. All right. First one, we're going to start with glide baits. We'll go glide baits, then topwaters, and then multi-joint baits. And we're going to make this as easy for you as we can. We just picked a handful of baits in each category. First one I'm going to talk about is the Gancraft. We've talked about it before, but probably the most overlooked bait in the glide bait category. And it's ironic because it was the first real glide bait to hit the market. It was way ahead of everybody else. And it is still a huge producer, and it really doesn't get thrown much. So this year, if you want a nice bait, if you want to step up and throw a really nice bait that the fish aren't seeing, that's a little bit different than everything else, you can go slower. It's really fluid, great colors. This is one of my favorite colors. That's their dark trout. Check out that Gancraft. It's a great, great choice.
Yeah, and one thing I want to mention that Matt hasn't really mentioned, we're going to talk to you guys, show you guys our favorite baits that are available. You know, we've done videos in the past on different baits and they sold out and now they're not available. So keep that in mind when we're going through these baits. You know, there's a lot of custom baits, all that stuff that we're not going to really get into. We're going to talk about stuff that is, you can go online right now and get them today. So
that was such a good point.
I am going to kick it off with my favorite, the River Sea 168. Now you guys have seen the damage we've done on this bait. It's been around for years. We've fished it for such a long time. We have so much confidence in it. And me personally, jumping in a plane, flying back to Michigan, and throwing a 168 out there for giant smallmouth and having it work was just it just solidified what we're trying to tell you guys. Yeah. A bass is a bass, and they will eat it no matter where they at, wherever you're at in the country. SWVR 168. Match the hatch, whatever color works in your bodies of water, whatever bait fish you have. Light trout, add that one too, because it seems like no matter where we go, 30-foot viz to 2-foot viz, the fish eat it. So the SWVR 168, that is a must-have, you guys. We've shot videos on how to work them, you know, the reel twitches, all that stuff. We'll add those up in the cards, but the 168 is a must-have.
You know what, while you're talking waiver, why don't you talk about the big one too, and then I'll do this one.
Okay. So from there, you know, we talked with River Sea for a while. We wanted to get a bigger bait, and they did. They came out with the 200, and it's been around now for a couple years.
Yeah.
And in its size class, it's a relatively inexpensive bait compared to what else is on the market. You're looking at, I think, 45, 50, 60 bucks, something like that.
Yeah.
But stripers, big largemouth. If you're looking to throw a bigger swim bait, an 8-inch swim bait, the 200 is another great bait. Great action, doesn't break the bank, same good colors. So much confidence in these baits right here. You guys have seen the videos. It's the striper fishing, the bass fishing. You've seen this is literally what we're throwing.
Right. Those baits, I mean, Tim can't stress enough how much damage we've done with them, and they really are, in their categories, by far the least expensive baits. The colors are simple, but they work, and the action is perfect. You can get super aggressive with them. The last one I'm going to talk about in the glide bait category, we started talking about this bait this spring. We did a review of this bait this spring, is the Bait Sanity, the Explorer Glide. And that is a bait that I fell in love with. It sat on a shelf for a while before I fell in love with it, because I didn't fall in love with the look of it. It sat on a shelf and it spent some time there, but the first day that I picked it up and fished it, I mean, we just smashed fish, and it's been a slugfest ever since. You know, we did a review, we did tons of striper videos with it, but I've caught a bunch of big largies on it. And again, for its size and for what you're getting, it's a budget bait. I mean, you're still in like that, I don't even remember where it is, $60 to $70 range, somewhere in there. But for what you're getting for a bait in that size range, it's no question. And then the other thing I want to bring up, and I've not talked about this before in any video with these baits, they come with a really, really soft tail. And they do sell replacement tails, because once in a while I pop one. And Tackle Warehouse has those in stock. And, you know, we're going to link every bait, every single thing we talk about. We'll give you links in the video description, because the purpose of these videos is to make it easy for you, not to complicate it. Make it easy for you, make it easy for your loved ones to get you the gifts that you want this holiday season, as well as you to not waste time and not waste money and just get the things that work. So those tails, they sell spares, but they also sell a second version. These tails are more rigid. For this one, the dark trout tail is the rigid one. For the carp, it's the one that doesn't have orange on it. They're rigid. I mean, they're still flexible, but they're way stiffer. So this bait with the soft tail is not as aggressive as the SWVR. So when I twitch it, there's slower twitches. I let that bait glide out. And then you bring it back in. And then you let it glide out. Real methodical. It's a very different action than an SWVR. But when I put on the stiffer tail, it becomes just like an SWVR, where you can snap and rip and really be aggressive, and it will dart, and it almost turns into a giant jerk bait. And there are days where fish want both. So as I've played with this bait, and we didn't tell you that when we did a review back in like February or March or whenever that was, because I hadn't experimented with them yet. But now I've put a bunch of time in with them. So I've started carrying both kinds of tails in the box with me, because it completely changes the bait. And I've found that on the days where they're coming up soft on it, if I can get more aggressive, they eat it. But on the days where I'm aggressive and the fish just turn away and leave, I go to that soft tail and just baby it, and they come up and mouth on it, and you end up getting them.
It's funny how the temperaments change day to day on fish. Real quick, I'm going to talk about some topwater. You know, we did a wake bait video earlier this year, and some of the baits that we talked about, like I said earlier in this video, are completely gone. They're not available. Hopefully they'll get those back in stock soon. But today I want to talk to you guys about the BBZ. This was one of my first topwater wake baits. It's a real natural looking bait. It's just a real it just cruises on the surface. Gets that real big V so fish can come up and track it. It's not that large of a bait, and you can burn it, you can twitch it, you can get real erratic with it if you want, if you have followers. But the BBZ, that is the 8-inch trout floater. That's a must-have. And then how do you talk about topwater baits or wake baits without talking about the Johnny Rat? I think you did a video on this earlier this year, didn't you?
Yeah, and luckily, unlike some of the other topwaters, the Johnny Rats are back now. Some of the other, you know, we listed a couple months ago, we did a wake bait video, and a bunch of that stuff sold out and just has not come back. And that's unfortunate, because we go out of our way when we're trying to find baits. We try to find baits that, 1, smash fish, 2, if possible, don't break the bank, and 3, are widely available, because it doesn't help to go find a garage company that produces 15 baits a year and then no one can get them.
Right.
So some of them are gone, but these two were from that video, the BBZ and the Johnny, and they are back in stock and you can get them.
So a great rat. It's above $100, but in the category, in the rat category, this is a must-have.
Yeah. All right, and then the last place that we're going to go, I'm going to talk about multi-joint baits. Then we're going to talk rods and reels, and then we'll wrap it up. So on the multi-joint front, there's basically 3 baits I'm going to talk about. 2 of them are Buka's baits. So bull shad and the bull gill, both proven producers. And we've talked about these before, but when you see these baits, in the past, I've said that I do not like multi-joint sinking baits. I love multi-joint topwaters. I don't like multi-joint sinking hard baits. However, these specifically, I've found a place for, and it's because I finally understood what Buka designed them to do, which is fish super fast. When I tried to just treat them like a triple trout and just roll those baits, I just was not seeing the success that I wanted out of them. But when you really speed those things up and you burn and pause and burn and pause and rip, they come out of the woodwork for them. Both are great producers, and both are going to work nationally. They're going to work everywhere. They're very basic generic paint that basically fits everything. He's got like 2 or 3 colors in the shad that would mimic everything. I mean, does it kind of look like a golden shiner? Yes. Does it kind of look like a hitch? Yes. Does it kind of look like a shad? Yes. Does it look like a herring? Yes. So the point is you can take a bait and run it everywhere. And because of how fast you're going with it, the fine detail doesn't matter. The fish just explode on it. And then with the gill, gills are a very difficult thing for me. I struggle with them because the shape of a gill bait is so hard for a bass to eat. Bass choke on gills in the natural environment all the time. So it's very hard for them to get a hard gill bait down. So what I like about Buka's bait is that he took all the fins off and streamlined it, and it's way, way, way easier for the fish to get a hold of that. And when they go to slide, because when you swing on a hard bait, the bait slides, there's nothing there but hooks to catch on, and that has made a big difference. The last one, Jackal put out the Dows swimmer either earlier this year or late last year. And I don't have a huge opinion on it yet, but I didn't want to exclude it because it is a bait that I've been throwing. And if you guys have been focusing on the videos and really watching, you've probably seen me throwing it a little bit, though I haven't talked about it in the footage. So it's a multi-joint bait, but the joints are so tight. See how it has almost no bend compared to, say, a bull shad? Almost no bend. So it fishes a lot like a glide, even though it's multi-joint. And you can get a little more depth out of it than you can out of a glide. The fins on it's got hard fins and they're tipped. So I actually seem to be able to get it down pretty good. And I've had, for the limited amount of time I've put into it, I've had some real play on it. I don't know if you guys can see the teeth marks in that bait or not, but it's gotten mauled. So while I don't have a super strong opinion of it yet, I didn't think it was fair to leave it out. I want you to know that we are throwing it and playing with it. And again, it's one of those baits that's in a price range that's fair. So definitely worth consideration. Let's move on to rods.
Yeah, let's. All right, so again, we want to talk about stuff that's available, stuff that doesn't break the bank. We're going to start with an entry-level swim bait rod. This is the Fury series by Dobbins. You guys have heard us talk about this series before. I think it's $109, something like that. Yeah. So as far as swim bait rods go, it's kind of a price point. It's kind of near the bottom. Yeah. This is the $795. I like the $795 and the $806. Mm-hmm. I like the softer tips for treble hook baits, jig hook baits. We throw a little bit stiffer. But the $795 and the $806 paired with a Shimano Cardiff 300 is an awesome budget swim bait combo. You're right around $200. Yeah. I mean, some of that striper footage you guys saw this year was on this rod. I mean, that's what I was throwing.
They're strong.
That's what I was throwing some of those walking baits with and catching, 15, 20-pound stripers. So this rod right here paired with the Shimano Cardiff is a great entry-level swim bait combo.
Yeah. This one, nothing about it is entry level. This is, I would say for both of us, probably our favorite glide bait rod. Mm-hmm. You're spending more for it, but here's how you look at swim bait gear. How much are you going to do it? If you're dabbling in the game, a Fury and a Cardiff is phenomenal, and you're in it for $200, and it is going to last a long time. Now, if you are going to swim bait every day, it's just like any other rod. You want it to be as comfortable, as light, responsive, do the exact things that you need it to do, just like you would a jig rod or any other rod. And that's where the purpose of spending more and getting higher quality gear comes from. It just comes down to how much you're going to do it. Because like Tim said, you've seen us fishing with Furies. We use them, and they're great. We use Cardiffs, and they're great. But they're not as light or as smooth or as strong as what you might get if you step up, but you are going to pay more for that. So our number one glide bait rod, hands down, is Loomis IMX Pro, and it's the 6-power. The 966 is the actual model number on it. But that is a rod that's got a ton of backbone. It can throw all of the bigger baits that we're talking about here without any issue at all. It goes all the way up. We throw slide swimmers on it. We throw all that stuff on it. It's a little bit, when you get to the biggest baits, it's a little bit soft on the cast. But when you hook up with it, that's what you want. You do not, it's easier to cast with a stouter rod to throw the bait, but then you hook up and now you're fighting a fish on a treble hook with a pool cue, and you're going to lose if it's a big one. So the rod, the balance there between still being able to throw the baits, and then when you hook up on those big ones, and you've seen the footage, I mean, from almost 40-pound stripers to double-digit largemouth to everything in between, they load up deep and they just smash on them. And then the one other thing that I really want to talk about today is that Tranx, and it's specifically the Tranx 300, because I've always been a 400 series guy. I've always liked that bigger reel.
Round reel. Yeah.
The big round reels. But that 300 size in that Tranx is so comfortable, especially on this rod, because they narrowed the cork. They went to a lighter reel seat. It's more like a standard bass rod. It almost feels like a big jig rod, but what you're actually getting is so much more. And then that power handle. They make the 300 with and without a power handle. The first time I got a power handle, I didn't know what I was going to think of it. The first time I hooked a fish on it, I didn't know how I had fished without it. And I have now converted all of my hard bait reels, well, I shouldn't say all, but almost all of my hard swim baits to power handles, because you just have so much more torque. When you're working the baits and when you're fighting the fish, it makes a big difference. So I really have enjoyed that. And that's been a transition for me over the last year and a half. Before that, I didn't use them. That is worth checking out.
Yeah, the last rod that I want to talk about is going to be another IMX Pro. This is the 904, and it's actually their swim bait rod. But in previous videos, you know, we've done these videos now for 3 years or so. You guys know that I like a softer tip rod for my glide baits, my treble hook baits. I use different stuff than Matt.
Yeah. And
I think we both agree on this rod. This is the exact combo that I took to Michigan and was catching those big smallmouth on. It's a 904 paired up with a Metanium. It's a softer tip. It's almost like a moderate fast action. And again, like Matt said, when you hook up on those fish, it loads deeper into the blank, almost like a crankbait rod.
Right.
So those fish, especially the smallmouth or those big spots, when they get all squirrely and frantic on the surface and cartwheeling and stuff, that rod stays loaded and they don't spit the hook as easily. So again, this is the 904. This is the SWVR swim bait rod paired with a Metanium. Any 200 size reel works great on this combo. Obviously the Metanium, super light, super smooth. I actually have 30-pound braid to a 15-pound mono leader on this one because I literally pulled this off the rack from Michigan 2 months ago. So
can I add to that one?
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you guys realize how, is monumental the right word? Monumental the moment that just happened was. For those of you that have stuck with Tactical over the last like 6 months, you have no idea. But for those of you that have been with us for like 3 years, 5 years, 8 years, was that just like the first 2 swim bait rods in a row that we've ever agreed on?
Yeah,
I think it is.
I think that the years of you fishing with me, you're starting to realize that I'm right.
So specifically that rod for the lighter bait, for the waiver, Tim and I have disagreed so much about a waiver over the years. I mean, we have argued on camera about our 2 different styles of fishing it.
And off camera a lot.
A lot off camera. We tone it down for you guys. You think you see arguing. You should see the rest. That rod is soft enough in the tip that Tim's sensitivities, you know, they come through and he's okay. But when you really load it up, there's enough backbone there that I get what I've always wanted out of the flipping sticks that I've thrown it for. And I really do think we found a rod that fits both styles. And that's important to you because we tell you all the time, listen to our style and then take that information and apply it to figure out what's right for you. Because we're telling you 2 different rods for one thing. Figure out what works for you. That's a rod that I think fits everybody's style for that bait. And that's the first time that's ever happened. So let's wrap it up there.
Yep.
Guys, we hope you enjoyed the video. Again, this is the hard bait portion of the swim bait buyer's guide. Tomorrow, you are going to get that bonus video, soft baits. This is fun. I love doing these buyer's guides.
Yeah, it's fun because you get to dig through the garage and you get the list, right? This morning, I got the list of all the comments in the last video, all the buyer's guides recommendations. So I'm going through the garage, digging up, pulling stuff, and trying to build these things. So it's gives you a chance to find old gear and organize and
organize.
You know, because our fishing, you know, we're stuck to one style, whatever it may be on our lake at the time. But, you know, I'm pulling up stuff from Michigan and striper fishing and stuff. So, again, guys, the buyer's guides, they're meant for you. They're meant for your loved ones. We're trying to make it as easy as possible for you to get what you want and need. Fishing tackle can be some of the hardest things to buy from loved ones. So, for loved ones. So, again, share it with your friends, share it with your family. And remember, if you guys have any questions or more recommendations for more buyer's guides, please leave those down below in the comment section and we will get to those.
All right, guys, we appreciate you. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.